And a pleasant Sunday to one and all as we look live at the scene at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx as we count down to first pitch before Game 3 of the AL Division Series between the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. The Yankees trailing that series, no games to 2. And joining me right now, a man who knows a thing or two about Yankee playoff baseball, former 4-time World Series champion with the Yankees, Jeff Nelson. And Nelly, the big topic, of course, heading into Game 3, the monumental gaffe, lack of a challenge, whatever you want to call it, by Yankee skipper Joe Girardi. It's been simply dominating the headlines the past couple days after failing to challenge what would have been an ending strikeout in Game 2. That instead led to the Francisco Lindor grand slam and eventually the 8-7 loss in Game 2 in 13 innings. And Nelly, not to spend the entire half hour on this topic, but I think it's a pretty simple thing in that when Joe Girardi did not come right out and say, I screwed up, it fanned the flames, and this is why this whole firestorm was created in the first place.
Yeah, it took him till the workout day yesterday, and then he finally, made a mistake. Yeah, there's no there's no doubt. I've been going back on the Facebook wars with a lot of the fantasy campers down in Yankee camp and all this other Yankee fans, and they're like, oh, Girardi has to go. We want Girardi's head. This is his last year. I'm like, timeout. Yeah, everybody got upset because he didn't actually come out and he said, oh, I want to, breaking the rhythm of the pitcher, which was nonsense because there was already second and third, so you almost needed to break the rhythm.
Right.
And you didn't challenge. You had 2 challenges in the postseason. You get 2, each manager gets 2 challenges. And then after the 8th inning, then it goes to the umpires. You can challenge. You're in the 6th inning. Why he's so good at doing it, I think the Yankees led in challenges, I think, as far as being accurate 75% of the time.
I think he had the highest success rate in the game this year. Right.
And when you think of the time, you think of the game, it's 8-3, and the next thing you know, you don't challenge, and I think it was a shock. I think it was a shock to everyone, and, he did. He made the mistake. But the bottom line, he didn't lose the game.
No.
The pitchers they have a great bullpen. They also criticized him. It's funny because it goes both ways. Oh, you took out CC Sabathia too fast. Well, guess what? He got you to where he needed to get you, and that was into the 6th inning. You have a rested bullpen. I know they pitched 8 2/3 in the wild card. Guys pitched more than what they used to during the regular season, which is what happened in some postseason. You always are asked that, hey, I've got to do more than what I do. I'm not a 1-inning guy anymore. I'm a 2-inning guy. I might have to get 6, 7 outs. It's just the bullpen didn't get it done. I don't know if Chad Green or David Robertson came out in the paper and said, hey, you know what, I just didn't get the job done. If they took some of the blame themselves, if they didn't, I'm a little surprised. You need to back your manager a little bit. It's just like when the guys behind you make an error. Well, guess what? You try to pick them up as a pitcher. It's just like if the pitcher messes up, guess what? I'm going to try to turn a double play for him and try to get him out of this jam, get back in the dugout, let him reset his mind. Well, Chad Green hung a slider to Chisholm, hung a slider to Lindor. It was a bad pitch. You gave up a grand slam, but guess what? At the end of that inning, you were still winning 8-7.
Right.
And then Robertson came in. He tried to go that extra inning. It was his second. He came in to get out of Greens, and then he pitched a 1-2-3 inning, and came back out again in the second inning of work. He faced Bruce. They don't have a lefty down in the bullpen they only have Garcia and Montgomery. They're not really situational lefties. They're starters. That you're asking, okay, hey, you're going to eat up some time. You're not going to be a guy to get out of jams or face a crucial lefty in a runners on base situation. 3-1 pitch, and he leaves a fastball up out over the plate. You got to know, okay, this is what he's looking for. If you walk him, who cares? I don't know who was on deck. Maybe you're righty. I don't know what it was. But you made a bad pitch. He tied it up 8-8. You know what? Torreyes was in the 10th inning, gets picked off. He pinch runs for Frazier.
After a leadoff, not just a double, a leadoff double.
Nobody out.
Right.
You might have a great shot of scoring that run, and he gets picked off by the catcher throwing from his knees because he's anticipating a bunt from Gardner, and he didn't get it down because it was up. It was a ball. That's inexcusable. Yes, Girardi made a mistake, and it always goes upon the managers. Oh, that's the managers. if they go through a losing streak, they're the ones that get blamed for it because then they get fired. Well, Girardi made a mistake. It took him a while to, I guess not admit to it, but basically say, yeah, I messed up and I take this hard. I'm going to take it all on me. He didn't blame anyone else, and he was very classy in doing that. But he didn't lose the game. The bullpen gave it up. It was when you score 6 runs against the Cy Young Award winner. I think Kluber's going to win the Cy Young this year. You got to win that game. 8-3. You got to win that game. You tie that game 1-1, you're coming back, and Tanaka that goes tonight is, great at home. He's got, I think, a 3.22 ERA at home. Mm-hmm. You go up 2-1, you probably are going to win this series.
Yeah.
I mean, they play so well, best record at home. So it's a little bit disheartening. And then you got the Chapman thing, who's liking Instagram hits, saying, Girardi an imbecile and he should be fired. You know what? What's he going to throw another manager under the bus again? He threw Madden under the bus, and now he's going to throw Girardi under the bus. I don't know. It's a little disappointing, and I was taught not to read the papers in New York, so when I played, so I didn't read them. But it'd be interesting to see what some of the players' comments were, especially the bullpen. They have a great bullpen. Yes, Chad Green had a great year. Robertson, I love. He's one of my favorites down there. They didn't get the job done. If I gave it up, I'm the first one sitting in my locker, and I'm saying, yep, you know what? I didn't get the pitches. I didn't get the job done. And I don't need to read it in the paper the next day because I know what I did. I hung a slider. I left a fastball over the middle of the plate, and they tied the game up. It's happened. You have to face the music. So now let's move on. They're playing great at home. Let's see if they can bounce back. During the introductions, the fans are going to give it to Girardi, which is it's a shame. He doesn't deserve it. But ultimately, yes, Girardi made a mistake, but it wasn't his fault.
And like you said,
he didn't lose the game.
He didn't throw the pitch to Lindor.
No.
He didn't throw the pitch to Bruce.
Right.
He didn't get picked off at second base in the 10th or 11th inning.
I know.
And
that's all that's been, nothing's said about that.
No, of course not.
You don't read anything about, how's that, what kind of base running mistake is that?
Yeah.
In the 10th inning, we have the go-ahead run, 120 feet away, 2 bases, a base hit.
Nobody out.
Nobody says anything. They don't say about, they just say, the bullpen's been overworked. Well, guess what? That's what you have to do in the postseason. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's funny because, you're so used to the New York media. They've been a little light, I think. They're a little less controversial now, I think.
I agree.
Than back in the old Yankee days, Steinbrenner days. But, it's funny how they want to get all over the manager. Yes, he made a mistake. I'm not disagreeing with that. But it wasn't his. He didn't make the pitches, and he didn't get the loss. They still had the lead by 1.
They did.
They still had a quality. They still have a great bullpen that should have been able to put that Cleveland Indian team away.
Yeah, and they didn't. And as a result, they're down 0-2, heading into this very pivotal Game 3 tonight at Yankee Stadium. And Nelly, you briefly brought up Masahiro Tanaka, and he's been very good at home. He's had his struggles on the road. That's irrelevant considering tonight's game, which is in the Bronx. What Masahiro are we going to see tonight? Because in his last start, he was as brilliant as he's ever been in a Yankee uniform against the Blue Jays. It was, you could call it a meaningless game. I think the Red Sox had already wrapped up the East, but nonetheless, 7 scoreless, 3 hits, 15 strikeouts. What was working for him that day as opposed to other starts where we've seen him give up maybe 3-4 home runs?
Well, getting ahead with his fastball, and he had a nasty split finger. His changeup, and he mixed in a little slider. He throws a slider breaking ball, but his 2 pitches are getting ahead with that fastball. It's about 88 to 90, 91. He might hit 92, but it's that split finger, and this is going to be interesting as well. Remember, Austin Romine usually catches him, and I think Gary Sanchez is going to be bound behind the plate. A lot of balls in the dirt. Sanchez has got to know that when there's men on base. He's got to know that the ball's going to be in the dirt, and Tanaka can't be afraid to throw it in there. If Tanaka's on the mound saying, I can't throw the ball in the dirt, it's going to be a long game, and it's going to be a sweep, because next thing you know, he's going to start hanging that slide or little split finger and getting the ball out over the plate, and he's going to get hit. He has a 3.22 at home compared to a 6.4 on the road, which is mind-boggling to me. Yeah. I don't know how, and I've seen a number of pitchers this year with home and road splits that are through the roof. I mean, they're not. I can understand a run, like Sabathia is better on the road than he is at home, but to be over 3 runs difference on the road than home, I don't get it.
Very odd.
I don't get it.
Very odd. As we check out Aaron Hicks in the cage, and this live batting practice session brought to you by our friends at Doosan, as we check out, like I said, Aaron Hicks. And Hicks, through the first 2 games of this series, is 3 for 9, the big 3-run homer of Corey Kluber in that Game 2 loss. So Hicks swinging a hot bat so far in this series. And Nelly, I've got to think that, you mentioned briefly that in a game where you knock out Corey Kluber in the 3rd inning, gives up 6 runs, 2 home runs, that you've got to take some of that confidence to know that you beat this team's very best. And even though Carlos Carrasco was no slouch, 18-game winner, the Yankees have to derive some confidence from what they did to Kluber.
Offensively, they can hang. Carrasco is also really good at home, on the road. This guy has an under 3 ERA on the road. I think that, did I see? No, it was Peacock, actually, that hasn't gotten a loss yet on the road this year during the season with the Astros. But no, Carrasco pitches to about a 2.8, I think, on the road, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. Offensively, the Yankees are very confident. This is the best. This is the place they love to play in Yankee Stadium. The ball flies here. They have a lot of power. They led the American League in homers. They have the best record at home in the American League. So they're very confident here. The one strength that they had, maybe the strength of their team, was their bullpen, and they let them down in Game 2. Or they could have been 1-1, and I think they're flying high. I think they win tonight. I think it goes to Game 4, and then you roll in the dice, because I think the Indians are saying, okay, we got a chance to close them out because there's a lot of controversy over there. Well, there's always controversy in the Yankees clubhouse and through the media. That ain't nothing new. But I think they're a confident team, and what they need to do, the Yankees have always seemed to feed off the fans. And that crowd's got to be loud. The crowd was very loud. They were taken out a little bit when the Twins scored the 3 runs in the top of the first in the wild card game, but they came back quickly, and it was one of the loudest times, I think. I was talking to a lot of people that have been at the games, and some of the media members, and saying that might have been the loudest that it's been at Yankee Stadium in a long time, especially this year, but maybe dating back to the old Yankee Stadium. So the crowd needs to be in it, and hopefully the Yankees can score early and get the crowd going, because the crowd can really throw the other team off, and then the home team players really feed off the home crowd.
Absolutely, and we saw it in the bottom of the first inning of that wild card game when Didi went deep to tie the game. That play, it blew the roof off the place. Speaking of Didi, he and friends are going to be taking their hacks, like we said, against Carlos Carrasco in Game 3. The lineup that Joe Girardi sends out there is as follows. Brett Gardner leads off. He's in left. Aaron Judge batting second. He's in right. Gary Sanchez behind the plate, as you said, not Austin Romine. Sanchez batting third. There is Gregorius cleaning up. He's at short. Sterling Castro batting fifth. He is at second base. The first baseman, Greg Bird, bats sixth. Todd Frazier batting seventh. He's at third. Jacoby Ellsbury, who has terrific career numbers against Carlos Carrasco. More on that in a moment. He's DHing tonight. And Aaron Hicks in center field as he bats ninth. So when you've got guys like Ellsbury batting eighth and Hicks, who's had a good series, batting ninth, that is a very deep lineup, 1 through 9. And getting to Jacoby Ellsbury in 14 career at-bats against Carlos Carrasco. He's hitting .429, 1 home run, 7 RBIs. He's been a bit of a whipping boy for Yankee fans the last couple of years, but he absolutely has to be in that lineup tonight.
Well, yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why Romine's not catching. If Ellsbury didn't have great numbers, I would have seemed to think that, okay, maybe Sanchez is DHing. And I think they're only carrying 2 catchers, and Romine's the guy behind the plate.
Right.
Because this is it. I mean, you're down 2-0. You need a good defensive catcher back there. And basically, Romine has caught Tanaka almost at every one of his starts. He's a great defensive catcher as far as blocking the balls, keeping the balls in front of him. He doesn't have the arm that Sanchez has, but he is a very good defensive catcher as far as not letting anything by you. And I'm not saying Sanchez loses concentration, but he's really slow right now as far as anything that's in the dirt. And it doesn't seem, when it hits your body, if you watch Yadier Molina or some of the better catchers in the league, where's the ball? When it hits your body, it's basically right in front of you, or 2 feet from side to side. When it hits off of Sanchez, it's like ricocheting in the stands one way, and it's like going everywhere. So he can't seem to grasp that mechanic of keeping that ball in front. And also it gets between his legs. And as a pitcher, like I said, I have to have confidence that if I'm going to throw my slider and that's my strikeout pitch, then I got to make sure I get it in the dirt when I'm ahead in the count. Tanaka the same way. When he's ahead in the count, if there's men on base, especially third, you got to have confidence in that. Hey, I don't care if he doesn't block it. This might be a long night for him. It might get the hockey suit on, but you better learn how to get down there and keep that ball in front of you. If not, there's going to be a lot of pass balls, there's going to be a lot of wild pitches, and it's going to be a merry-go-round out there on the base pass for the Indians.
Which is the last thing the Yankees need. And Nilly, during your career, you threw a ton to Girardi, threw a ton to Dan Wilson during your Seattle days. So Jorge Posada, obviously, I had to think that you had the utmost confidence in all three of those guys, that when you're throwing balls in the dirt and trying to get guys to chase, it wasn't going to get by any of those catchers.
No, and that's the thing. For a reliever, you're coming in with men on base, and especially if the tying runs at third, go-ahead runs at third, whatever it is, my out pitch is my slider. And if I'm going to throw it down and away, I got to have confidence that if I'm bouncing it in the dirt, then they got to be able to get in front of it, because that's my pitch. I got to try to throw that to get a hitter to swing and miss and get us out of the inning. Well, Tanaka's the same way. And I think because of Ellsbury having great numbers against Carrasco, I think that's why Romine's not in there. And you have to have Sanchez's bat. This guy has unbelievable power. He already has, 2 homers in the playoffs already. You have to have him in there. The only downside to Sanchez, he just doesn't block the ball well, and that will come. I mean, they've worked on it. We used to have with the Yankees, a great catching instructor, Gary Tuck, and he made Girardi so much better of a catcher before he came to the Yankees. He was okay, but once Gary Tuck was there, Jorge Posada the same way. They were good catchers, but they became great catchers as far as blocking the ball, throwing guys out, quick feet out. If the ball's out in front of the plate of a swinging bunt or a bunt, they were able to handle that. Both of them were really strong at that. It was Gary Tuck. So I don't know who their catching instructor is here, but it's something that they really worked on, because if you think about it, in the middle of the season, or maybe in August or July, they were thinking about sitting Sanchez and just DHing him because his catching skills were almost lackluster. Like they thought, okay, well, you're just lazy behind there. Well, it's not laziness. He's just not very good at that right now.
Yeah, it's a skill that comes over time, and Sanchez is still so young. I think, is he going to become Yadier Molina? I don't think anybody's expecting that, but improvement will come. It's just not coming right now when the Yankees need that down 0-2 in this series. You mentioned that, obviously the Yankees need Sanchez's bat in that lineup. So far in this series, he is 2 for 10, the 1 home run, the 2 runs driven in. Aaron Judge has been quiet, hitless, and 7 at-bats. Can the Yankees win this game if those two put up offers tonight?
Probably not. You're going to need one of them, and I think maybe both of them come up big today. Carrasco's got a really good fastball, a good breaking ball, nice changeup as well. He mixes it up pretty decently, especially if you have an under 3 ERA on the road. Usually it's the opposite, that you throw, well at home, and you're supposed to have a 1-run or even less split, but he has a better road split than he does at home. If they go over, I don't think so, and I don't think they win this game. I think you have the table setters in Gardner. The bottom half of the lineup needs to come up big. They just have to try, and it's very easy to say, try to play relaxed. And I think if they can get ahead early, I think it will help Tanaka relax a little bit, give him some breathing room, get the crowd back into it, because if you allow Cleveland to score early, then the crowd's done. It's almost one of those fickle crowds now that because they're down 2-0 and they still have this game 2 thought in their head that, oh, Girardi's the one that lost it, which is wrong. All of a sudden it becomes dead in a stadium that's going to seat 50,000. You see 50,000 there tonight. So if they can score early and Tanaka throw the ball, get that crowd up, and then they can finally believe that, hey, you know what, we're right back in a series, and if we have to go back to Cleveland for Game 5, that's our goal, and that's going to happen.
It's interesting you bring up the crowd and getting on the board first, because the game currently underway at Fenway Park. We're going to the bottom of the 6th inning, and the Red Sox have a 4-3 lead and a do-or-die Game 3 for them. They're down 0-2, as are the Yankees, but that game did not start well for the Red Sox. The Astros jumped out. Carlos Correa hit a 2-run homer off Doug Fister to give them a 3-0 lead. Fister got pulled with 1 out in the 2nd. The Boo Birds came out. I mean, it was as dead an environment as you could have in a home ballpark for a playoff game. The Red Sox, though, they rallied. They've scored the last 4, and they have a 1-run lead heading to the bottom of the 6th. Is that something you noticed with all the playoff experience you had during the mid to late 90s with the Yankees, and that Not to say that a crowd would give up if you guys got down early, but how much more important was it for you guys to get on the board first during a playoff game as opposed to a regular season game?
Well, it's Old Yankee Stadium. The crowd seems like they were right on top of it.
Right.
It was one of I think the loudest outdoor stadium I've ever played in. The Kingdome in Seattle was probably the loudest when we were playing them in '95. But you know, when you go, because you're used to the crowd with the Yankees and you're playing at home, you're used to that. It's a crazy atmosphere. When you go on the road, you're not intimidated in the playoffs because they're going to sell out. You're not intimidated by that crowd because we play in front of that all the time. And just like you see Boston booing their own team, well, when we messed up, they booed us as well. So it wasn't like it was gravy and, hey, you know, they gave us the benefit of the doubt. That's not a Yankee fan. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt. So, yes, now, because they're down 2-0 like Boston, I don't even think they sold out in Game 3. I think there were some seats that were still available, which is a shame because, you know, they saw them get swept last year by Cleveland, and now they're on the verge with Houston, but they have the 4-3 lead now. I hope it's not that case with the Yankees, that the Yankee fans are like, oh, you got to be kidding me. We're down 2-0. We should be here 1-1. Hopefully they get there. They support this team because I'm telling you, the players feed off. You can feel the energy, and that's why it's so important to try to score first, basically because you're down 2-0, but you want to keep that crowd in it. You want to get them as loud as possible because I know Cleveland is really loud. It's a loud place. We saw that in Game 2, especially when they came back. But because the Yankees are down 2-0, they can be taken out real quick. If the Indians start scoring early, that crowd, you might be able to hear a pin drop. And that's not good. And you don't want that to happen. So it's so important for the Yankees to try to score early. This
might be a complete, you know, long shot, something that will never happen. But what are the chances that, you know, given all this talk about, you know, a team feeding off the energy of the crowd and so forth, that the loudest ovation during pregame introductions is given to Joe Girardi? Is there any chance?
No, this is New York.
I know, but
Cleveland, if they go back to Cleveland, if he goes out to make a pitching change, they may give him an ovation, and that'll be Game 5, actually, exactly what the Yankees want. But no chance.
Okay.
You know, there might be a couple. Well, not even. No. I'm trying to think if there's a scenario. No, that's not going to happen.
No scenario whatsoever where he gets a little bit of applause.
It's a shame. You know, it's funny because when I was in 2000, I won the 4 World Series with the Yankees. I came back as a Mariner. I had 50,000 fans that booed the heck out of it. And Michael Kay and John Sterling were up there, and they were doing the radio. Said, "You got to be kidding me! They're booing Nelly for everything they did," and I didn't expect anything less. I'm like, okay, I didn't sign back with the Yankees. I went with somewhere else, and they're going to let me have it. And but you know, they're such great fans. Is that, you know, when I came back in 2003, you know, I came through the bullpen for the first time in the trade. It puts a tear to your eye because you have 50,000 fans that are now cheering you. I mean, It's just so it goes both ways. And then when you retire, then all the ones that probably threw stuff at you are like shaking your hand on the street. But no chance that Girardi gets any kind of benefit of the doubt and clapping their hands. Okay. They should boo. You know what? They should boo. You know, boo the relievers that gave it up. If you're going to start clapping for them, heck, I didn't clap. That's why I wore number 43. I got all the leftover cheers from, you know, after they introduced Mo.
That's right. Good
number
point.
42. I went 43. No, it wasn't the reason, but it was always nice because, hey, they're screaming and hollering, and I'm like, hey, yes,
ride the coattails.
I'm coming. I told the PA guy, I said, you make sure as soon as you announce Rivera, I'm right after. Don't give any kind of space.
Don't let him breathe.
No.
Don't let him get off the mat. That's interesting. Here's Ellsbury in the cage, and we brought up those great not career numbers, but, well, they are career numbers against Carlos Carrasco for the regular season. 14 at-bats, a .429 average, including a home run and 7 RBIs. And Ellsbury has only appeared in the one game so far, 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And we brought up how it's going to be so important for him to get on base, be a table setter. Brett Gardner as well. Gardner has had a very quiet series. He's 0 for 8, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. So a lot depends on those two guys. A lot depends on Judge and a lot on Sanchez. And, you know, all against a guy. And let me ask you this. Carlos Carrasco is making his postseason debut tonight. Can that help or hurt the Yankees? Because Carrasco, as talented as he is, we've seen guys. I mean, let's look at Chris Sale for the Red Sox, one of the best pitchers on the planet. And he's spit up in his postseason debut. Can the Yankees maybe rely on some nerves here for Carlos Carrasco?
Yeah, they can. And what's going to be interesting, and we've been talking about this a lot in the postseason, is the home plate umpire. And if we watched the wild card game against the Twins and the Yankees, the home plate umpire, I think it was Alfonso Marquez, was very tight. He's a hitter's umpire. He didn't give a lot off the corners. You know, it's interesting. I was watching Game 1 when Bauer was throwing, and I don't know who the home plate umpire was, but he was giving 2 or 3 inches off the plate on both sides, and that's a pitcher's umpire. You know, it goes both ways. You're going to get pitcher's umpires. You're going to get hitter's umpires. When you're in a playoff situation and you get a hitter's umpire, next thing you know, you're throwing the ball. If you watch that little square, which I can't stand, but you know, you watch the square and the ball's just off the line, either outside or inside. It messes with your head. Severino, he wasn't getting the calls. He couldn't find his breaking ball in the wild card game, but he wasn't getting the calls when they were close. And then you're sitting there as a young kid making your postseason debut. You're trying to get you to the next level. The same with Carrasco. I don't know who's behind there tonight, but if he's not getting the corners, if all of a sudden he's making good pitches and he's all of a sudden getting squeezed a little bit, that messes with you. That's like, oh my God, I got to all of a sudden bring the ball out over the middle of the plate. The ball's flying out at record times this year, over 6,000 some home runs, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So you're saying in your head, he said, wow, this is my strength. I need that pitch, and you're not getting it. Well, then that plays into a veteran team like the Yankees, and it helps you out.
Yeah, it can really mess with your head, your concentration, your approach if you're not getting those calls on the corners. And Nelly, as we check out the scene at the stadium right now, Mr. October is behind the cage, taking in the sights and sounds as Starlin Castro swings away. So Reggie Jackson on the scene, and I've got to think that, during your days, you guys were graced by the presence of many former Yankee greats. I would think that maybe there had to be some nerves when you see these guys who have been there, done that. You know, they've accomplished what you're trying to accomplish, but at the same time, that has to be a huge inspiration too.
It is. You know, we had a lot, and Reggie was around a lot. Reggie was funny because when we were first there in '96, we didn't win a World Series yet. And I mean, he won a few with the Yankees.
Yep.
So it was one of those things that almost the whole team, you didn't care who you were, you had to pay your dues.
Yep. And
then all of a sudden, once you won a World Series, this guy was like your best friend. I think he's a great guy. He always comes up to me, and my wife's favorite player. That's funny. But once you win the World Series, it's like it's different. And even with Lou Piniella, it's so funny. The Yankees that have been there and been to the World Series, and we had Yogi come around towards the end. You had Joe DiMaggio when he was still around. So you had so many Yankee greats that came, and it was, I think you feed off of it because it's like, hey, they've been there, done that. We're going to do that as well. You just have a great confidence to go out on the field and want to be a part of that because you feed off of that as well. And they love being around. I mean, Reggie loves being around. I think he was even in Cleveland. I think I saw him peek in the dugout or something. But it's something. And you know what? A lot of these guys have not gotten a World Series yet, a ring yet. And you know what? And he probably does the same thing to them. He'll blow them off until you get that little prize, and then he says, "Okay, now you're one of us." Right.
It's like you need that accomplishment to join the club and to be a part of that fraternity, and that's how it works. Is he's not Mr. October for nothing. Was that 77, the 3 homers against the Dodgers, I think?
Yeah, 77, 78.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But
I wasn't a Yankee fan when I was little, so I didn't pay attention to all that stuff.
Who did you root for?
Oh, I was a Baltimore Oriole fan.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't stand the Yankees.
Funny how that works. And a lot of players, they have rooting interests which are different from the teams that draft them.
Yeah.
And you got to switch loyalties somewhere along the way, of course. So whoever's signing your paychecks. As we are counting down to first pitch between the Yankees and the Indians. Again, Masahiro Tanaka takes the mound for the Bombers tonight. 13-12 in the regular season, 4.74 ERA. And we talked at length about Carlos Carrasco, his opposition for the Indians. Carrasco 18-6 and a 3.29 ERA. Nelly, one thing I find funny in that you look at Game 2 especially where the teams combined for 15 runs, but neither team is hitting well collectively in this series. The Yankees team batting average through 2 games, 179. The Indians, who are up 2 games in the series, they're only batting 194. So given that and given the quality of the starting pitchers we have tonight, could this be a low-scoring game? What end are you leaning towards?
It could as well. I mean, it all depends on what Tanaka shows up, And if Carrasco, if you got a decent umpire behind there that's not squeezing him, it could be a low-scoring game. The only guy that's hitting is Jay Bruce. Even Lindor was really struggling, and he got the one hit that was the grand slam. So he was struggling in the series, and Jay Bruce was the one that was carrying the team.
Right.
You have if you come down to a battle of bullpens, it's going to be interesting. You see the tremendous. I was grading them as a wash. I thought, okay, you have two great bullpens on both sides. I think it evens out. But if it's a close game, I think I give the advantage to Cleveland only because of Game 2. Because as a pitcher, when you come in and you know, hey, this could be our end of the season, nerves become even more. I mean, if Chad Green has to get in there, if Robertson may be a little bit less because he's more of a veteran guy. All of a sudden, you know, the urgency becomes even greater, and it sometimes gets to you. Cleveland's been there; they've done that. They went to Game 7 last year, so they're perfect. What was impressive to me was Tomlin in that extra inning.
Yes.
How it seemed like he just carved up the Yankee hitters, and this guy barely breaks a pane of glass. You know, he just had unbelievable control. And I was like, wow, and this was probably going to be Game 4 starter if it does go Game 4. I don't know, I guess Severino, I don't know who the Indians, if it gets to that point tomorrow night. So,
how much, to kind of wrap this up quickly, how much do you believe in intangibles this time of year, you know, where one team may have the championship experience and pedigree that another team doesn't? Can that play a big role or not really?
It will now, I mean, because the Indians are up 2-0. If you would have had 1-1, then I think you'd see a little panic in the Indians' faces, especially going to a place that the Yankees play very well in, and that's at Yankee Stadium. So right now they're up 2-0. They're feeling really good about themselves, and obviously they have one of their best pitchers in Carrasco going for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup tonight. Carlos Carrasco facing Masahiro Tanaka. Game 3 of the ALDS between the Yankees and the Indians. It is do or die for the Yankees as Cleveland on top. 2-0. First pitch comes your way at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In the not-too-distant future, we're going to be checking out the Indians inside the cage. But for right now, Nelly, we bid you adieu as you're on your way to the stadium for Game 3 tonight. And until we see the Indians, we will bid you farewell. This is Batting Practice Live presented by Doosan on MLB.com and Facebook Live. We'll see you all in a little bit.